Hello and welcome to my coverage of the Suffolk County budget hearings today that took place. I want to first of all thank all my colleagues from Passengers United. That would be Matt Camper, Andy's Randomness, Andy Q, Yuki was also there. I appreciate it. There was some technical issues getting to talk. I could not get the Zoom to work on my computer. It said I had my mic unmuted and they still couldn't hear me, so I had to figure out how to call in with the phone because, again, my computer and Zoom do not get along very well. There was the first guy who spoke took way too much time. I'm going to get but obviously it seems like he represents a certain demographic, and unfortunately they really didn't have any questions for us. The only questions that were asked are the only dialogues with that first guy. And everybody else was just listened to, and that was it. It really shows you how I'm not too hopeful about our cause here, because it's all about a certain demographic. Anyway, without further ado, you're not going to hear any coverage on News 12 most likely, other than maybe a couple of seconds of sound bites. So, without further ado, here is the audio from the Suffolk County Legislature meeting, and I tried my best to capture most of it for you. And if there is a link to a recorded clip of the meeting on the Suffolk County website, I will put that below.
For the Suffolk County Legislature's public hearings on the Suffolk County 2021 operating budget and the Southwest Sewer District Assessment Roll. I'm not sure who that noise was. All right, so we are, if we can all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Legislator Piccirillo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And before we start our public hearings, just for the record, I would like to please note that originally we had a public hearing that was scheduled for tomorrow, October 22nd. That public hearing has been officially moved to November 4th. So we will not be having a public hearing tomorrow on the operating budget. With that, we are going to go into our public hearings, with the first public hearing being the 2021 operating budget. I do have seven speakers who signed up to speak on this topic. And our first is Alan Kovetsky. Mr. Kovetsky, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Alan.
Good morning. Did you get the packet I sent?
Jerry,
I believe we did, but we can check with the clerk.
do we have any info?
Leslie, you're not on mute.
Distributed.
Okay, the clerk has received the packet and is distributing it.
Okay.
And Alan, you have 3 minutes to speak, and you can start whenever you are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. What I sent you was a cover letter, and then I sent you 70 pages of backup. The 70 pages of backup is the latest vacancy report for the County of Suffolk. Shows over 2,200 vacancies. So let me just speak briefly. I'm doing this for two reasons. Number one, in reading the budget document, I found out that there were some areas that needed further clarification. Number one was the revenues. I know the revenue code 1445-41, it lists a multitude of revenues, federal aid, the CARES Act. There's no explanation as to how this money is being used, how much has come in, if there are any restrictions. That should be explained. The second thing that I found with the narrative, which was a rather perplexing problem, was how much money do they need to avert these layoffs? There's no, Newsday says 500, but the county executive has no numbers of vacancies. He just has increased turnover savings all over the place. So there's no way of knowing And historically, a lot of positions are 100% positions, like in administrative areas, but positions in certain departments are only 25% county funds. So a 500 number for half a year could be tremendous more. So what I wanted to know is, how much money in federal aid does the county have to reverse these layoffs? I'd also like to know, or it should be explained to you, because you're making the final decision, when these layoffs or cuts are, where are they coming? What services are attached to them? And so forth. What you got was a half a picture. All right. I put some other comments in there about that. The other point is, the sooner this gets done, the easier it is. If you wait till July, you have to do twice as many things as you'd have to do in January. The second thing, I only have 3 minutes here, so the crux is the vacancies. The county executive shows approximately 8,800 positions filled. His staffing sheet, which is on page X, shows 11,000 positions. There are over 2,200 vacancies. A vast, vast majority of these have never been filled, have been vacant for years. I met with one of the legislators, and she said, why don't you age these? So being I'm stuck at home, I aged these. I found out that 352 are over 5 years. Some of them are over 20 years. 93 are over 10 years old, and so forth. There's hundreds of them from 2016. There is no money to pay for these in the budget. The police department has no money to pay for anything. You have close to $50 million in turnover savings. If you have to make cuts, if you have to do anything realistic, you have to eliminate vacancies. It's your responsibility, not the county executives, to do it. It's a very simple task. It can be done in one day. The computer is set up to do it. It's your responsibility to do this. If you do this, you have a clean document. Nassau County cleaned it. I reviewed Nassau's budget. They only have 200 and change police vacancies. You have 600 police vacancies. They'll never be filled. So they have for 2 classes.
Mr. Kovetsky, your time is up. Does anybody have any questions for Alan?
I do.
Nope. Legislator Picarillo, go ahead.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Fine, nice meeting you, sir.
You too. Could you just extrapolate a little more on what you were just about to say
Yeah.
and how it pertains to the budget?
Okay. The budget on the staffing pages has something called turnover savings. It's a number which reflects vacant positions that leave during the year. And what the county executive traditionally does, all county executives, they use that money to balance the budget. So if you go to the police budget and you look there, you'll see $60 million of turnover savings, which means they took $60 million of staff money and subtracted it from the budget. So that means $60 million worth of positions can't be filled. They've done that through all the departments. So what you need to do to make a realistic determination is you have to subtract out the positions that can never be filled, whether it's 1,000, 800, 1,500, whatever number. That will reduce turnover savings, give you a complete picture of what staff you need in the county, and it'll also show how much money the county executive put in due to the COVID. Right now, he's mixing 2,000 vacancies with his cuts. So, that's the problem. For you to do a realistic job, I didn't have all the data to sort everything. I had an old list and a new list. But these positions are never going to be filled. The county had made a conscious decision 20 years ago never to raise taxes in the general fund. So if you have 1,000 positions in the general fund and you're never going to raise taxes, you can't fill these positions. So why have them in a budget? Why take credit for having 8,800 positions and on a chart show that you have 11,000 positions? It doesn't make sense. Nassau County was forced to clean it up. If, God forbid, you actually have a NAFTA or a SAFTA or anything like that, the first thing they're going to do after they freeze salaries is make you clean up the budget. I'm saying you guys can clean up the budget. You can do it in one day. It's not a big deal. And it'll make you have it'll make your document a correct document. Right now, your document isn't correct. It's a false document. You're showing thousands of positions that'll never be filled, that are never funded. You have whole units, complete units that are completely vacant for 7, 8 years. And why have units that are completely vacant in a budget? The other part of this is the reason I sent it to you, sir, is you never get this information. I met with 1 or 2 legislators. They didn't even know what I was talking about. They didn't realize that the vacancy list is 70 pages. Take a look at that list of those positions. They'll never be filled. So why have them? Get the budget, make it realistic, net out the things, and then you'll know what money you have and what you can and you can't do. So really, I don't have the information to tell you if the budget is correct or incorrect. You know, I'm not asking for that. I trust Budget Review will do that information. But I'm telling you, the document as submitted has a glaring hole in it, and that's vacancies. You can correct it. 4 times a year, the legislature has the power to go in and correct positions. It's not the county exec's responsibility, it's your responsibility. And if you clean it up, you'll have a document that you can work with.
Thank you for your
That's what I tried to
testimony.
present to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Legislator Picarillo. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, Mr. Kovetsky, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Felicia Skoskoza.
Good afternoon. My name is Felicia Skokoza, and I am the Executive Director of Riverhead Community Awareness Program and the Riverhead Community Coalition for Safe and Drug-Free Youth. Many of you may remember our organization from June last year when members of the Riverhead Youth Coalition were invited by legislators Fleming and Krupski to speak before the Health Committee about vaping and the effects on youth. As a result of that presentation, several of our youth were invited to sit on some legislative subcommittees. I'm here today in response to the proposed 25% budget cut to our organization and many others in the county executive's 2021 budget. I understand that the COVID pandemic has resulted in additional shortfalls in state and local budget, but I am asking you to reject balancing the budget on the backs of the small community organizations who provide vital youth and community services and those who utilize those services. This cut would be particularly devastating for Riverhead youth, where the majority of students are already underserved and at risk. 2/3 of our students belong to a minority group, and the poverty level is so high that all students receive free breakfast and lunch. Further, Riverhead's 2020-2021 school budget failed twice, and the district is the only one in Suffolk County on an austerity budget, which means all clubs and sports have been eliminated. This makes our youth programs and services more vital as it is one of the few activities.
All right. Before anybody hears it,
Can I
Go ahead,
continue?
you can continue, Ms. Skokoza.
Okay. So this makes our youth programs and services more vital as it is one of the few activities to engage our youth in this hybrid learning environment where many students have already checked out. It is often pointed out to me and others that it is difficult for youth-serving organizations to demonstrate measurable outcomes or long-term effects of their prevention efforts. However, in February, our coalition received national recognition and was named 2019 Coalition of the Year by CADCA, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, the nation's leading substance abuse organization. This award was for demonstrating long-term sustainable outcomes over 10 years in underage drinking, binge drinking, and prescription drug abuse among high school students. Achieving these types of outcomes is a slow, methodical process that requires building strong community partnerships and participation among a diverse community coalition. We know how to stretch the funding we receive to create positive impact, but further cuts to that funding will disrupt our progress, particularly with our vulnerable youth. Please explore other ways to close the budget gap that will not adversely affect our youth, the future of our community, and our community members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Skokoza, for your time this afternoon. Our next speaker is Matt Camper. Matt, are you there? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep, you can begin whenever you're ready, and you have 3 minutes to speak on the budget.
Okay, good afternoon, legislators. My name is Matt Camper, and I am a regional director for Long Island for Passengers United, which is a regional organization which represents passengers across the New York metropolitan area, including Suffolk County. And I'm here this afternoon to speak on the budget in regards to Suffolk County Transit. I am deeply disturbed by the news that half the routes in Suffolk County are planned on being cut, all because of the fact that the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 is not going to be able to support that. And I understand the federal government needs to help out, and absolutely they need to 100%. But essential workers who have helped people like us get through this pandemic and continue to, by making them have to suffer, I think is unfair, and I think that this needs to seriously be looked at again. I feel that, there are other ways for, the budget to be handled in regards to Suffolk County Transit. I think there are other means of that. There needs to be some consideration looked into, because there are areas such as Ronkonkoma, such as, the middle of the island, the North Shore of Suffolk County, that are going to have no bus service. And I heard there was one area in particular where there won't be any bus service nearby whatsoever, and you may have to walk like 2 hours just to get a bus. That's going to leave people completely stranded, and there are routes in there that, carry hundreds of people per day, and they're going to, people that need to get to doctor's appointments, people that need to get to places, the mall, people who need to get to work are going to be affected, and are going to have and don't have that type of money to be able to pay for an Uber, for a Lyft, for a taxi. And they may not be able to take the Long Island Railroad because they may not be nearby to be able to do that. So you guys need to seriously look at this again. I think there needs to be another way to look at this. And one thing that I had in mind for the budget that I thought about that New York City is doing, that I think could be considered, 5 days, for, people at City Hall, people, in city government are furloughed. That helps saves the budget. I think that could be something you guys could look at. That maybe even talking to state legislators and coming up with a gas tax, which I have been in full support of to help the MTA. I think that could help transit agencies like Suffolk County Transit. It could even help you guys be able to maybe support projects throughout Suffolk County. So I really hope this can be looked at again. I hope riders can really, seriously be alarmed, and hopefully you guys can really look out for the riders, us riders in Suffolk County who use the system on a normal basis, and consider, at least look at this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Camper. We appreciate your time. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Camper? Okay, thank you again, Mr. Camper. Our next speaker is Andrew Pollock. Mr. Pollock, are you there?
Good afternoon, legislators. I am Andy Pollock. I am the public advisor to Passengers United. We at Passengers United are deeply appalled to hear the news that bus routes are going to be cut in Suffolk County. I'm going to go into a few specific routes and explain how it's going to be difficult for people like me and for people on the North Fork. First, let's talk about the goat in the room. And of course, I'm talking about the 54 because it has the most ridership out of any of the routes on this proposed list. It's almost 550 people per day that take the 54 between Huntington and Patchogue. For me, I would get impacted because for me to take the S1 from Amityville or Huntington and then trying to get over to Comac, I would have to go to Walt Whitman, take the S1, and then take the 54 heading east on Jericho Turnpike. As far as that is concerned, my trip would get very difficult because I would have to go to Deer Park. I would have to take the S33, which thankfully that's not getting cut. But then I would have to take the 41 at the psychiatric center. Maybe a little bit of extra travel time gets added. I don't know. Maybe it'll be shorter, but I prefer to go to Huntington, just as a personal preference. As far as Ronkonkoma is concerned, I am most concerned about Ronkonkoma because virtually there's going to be no service by MacArthur Airport. So not only cutting the 54, which goes on Vets Highway and goes to Islandia and Bohemia, but now you're proposing to cut the 57, which have no way to get to Lake Ronkonkoma. Highly recommend. But to get to Sayville, 57 and 59 would be my livelihood. Same with going to Lake Grove and going to the mall. So I have no way to get over to Lake Grove and get to Smith Haven. And one last point I want to make, and I'm very concerned also about the S62. How are people supposed to get over to the North Shore? That is a big problem. You're basically leaving people near Mount Sinai, near Miller Place, Rocky Point, Wading River. The North Shore is basically going to have no service. It's going to be a long walk to use the S. That is completely unacceptable. And then not to mention taking away another bus route to get over to Tanger Outlets in Riverhead. I find this very disturbing, and I'm really hoping that the feds are going to change their mind before the election. They're going to get the second stimulus done, but it seems unlikely. So I'm hoping these cuts do not happen whatsoever. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pollock? Seeing none, thank you for your time this afternoon. Our next speaker is Yuki Endo. Mr. Endo.
Thank you. Nicely to turn the facility for the essential
Suffolk County Bus. I take the nice bus as Suffolk County Hutton Genie. If the federal government at 23, 47, 54, 56, 57, 58, 63, 10B, 10C buses. 47, 54, 56, 58, 62, 10B, 10C do not have alternate service. 10B, 10C buses 9 have alternate service by Hutton Genie, non-turning Suffolk County Railways. And a week later, no trains leaving between 2:30 a.m. and 10:30 p.m. and last weekend trains leaving at 7:30 p.m. While there is no trains arriving between 2:30 and 7:44, and weekend no trains arriving between 2:30 and does not run often is the late evening, and last bus leaving New York City is 10:50 by last Saturday every day. During this time, 10B, 10C riders will be stranded. As important the addition of Pika S57 is the major Islip airport connection. All buses serving local station of Pika. I never took the S47, but I have seen recent buses. When when night bus used to run at from Babylon up as Tony a bus should become an extend 7 days now for connection to the S33 S34 it's connected with the N at the Hampton as the fulfill of Connaught and many shopping detail. A display cover 19 Hampton Genie buses in just like the S92 bus. Also, before cutting the 10B 10C, you should contact Hampton Genie coach bus to see if they will have a 10B 10C bus. If this buses work, please pressure and in all Suffolk County Transit buses are important essential service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Endo. Our next speaker is John Micho. Mr. Micho, are you there? He's in it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next speaker. We'll come back to John Micho. Is that you, John? Go ahead. Okay, we'll try coming back to him before we end the day. Our next speaker then would be Andy Quito. Mr. Quito, are you there? Mr. Quito? No? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next speaker then, Ryan Mcgeary. Ryan, you're there, your screen sideways. Looks like you're hanging off the wall. There you go, Mr. Mcgeary. And you are muted as well.
All right, any better?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mcgeary. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes whenever you're ready to speak about the budget.
Thank you again, Presiding Officer, members of the Legislature. Suffolk AME is committed to fully reviewing this budget, to working with you as our elected leaders, and to doing all in our power to ensure there are no disruptions or cuts to essential public services. While we understand the uncertain fiscal position this global pandemic has been, we urge you to do all you can to identify additional revenue streams and to deliver a budget that keeps our county government, its workers, and the services they provide fully intact. The COVID-19 pandemic has made it clear that our Suffolk County workers and AME members truly are our everyday heroes. They have worked tirelessly on the front lines during this crisis, even while others were being asked to stay safe and stay home in order to provide vital and mandated government services to our communities. Please do not thank them for their service and sacrifice by asking them to sacrifice even more than they already have. While AME continues to fight for federal disaster relief, we urge you to do the necessary work on the county level to deliver a final budget that protects the services Suffolk County provides and protects the Suffolk County employees who provide those services.
No, he's in our room. He is. We can't hear him. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next speaker. We'll come back to John Meach. Oh, John, are you there?
By asking them to sacrifice even more than they already have. While AME continues to fight for federal disaster relief, we urge you to do the necessary work on the county level to deliver a final budget that protects the services Suffolk County provides and protects the Suffolk County employees who provide those services. Again, I just thank you for listening to these comments, and know we'll be working together in whatever way we can to deliver a budget that keeps essential services intact. And I thank you all, and I'm accessible as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mcgeary. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Mcgeary? Okay, seeing none, thank you again for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gregory Noon. Mr. Noon.
There we go.
Hear you now. There you go. Yes.
Much better. Hey, Rob.
How are you today, Greg?
I am well. Hey, guys. Well, I better stick to prepared marks. Hi, Leslie. Tom, you there? Hey, dear friends, this is not how I imagine seeing you all again, but I'm here again to ask your help. Today's news is both sad and tragic on many levels. You and your coworkers have my condolences in a way, a recognition that human frailty is unseen costs that reverberate beyond a single person's actions. And the coronavirus crisis. As of today, October 21st, reports say that in Suffolk County, there are 48,121 cases of COVID-19, and sadly, 2,019 deaths, one more just yesterday. 2019 lives, all those families, loved ones, colleagues, friends, neighbors. We've heard it before that no man is an island. John Donne preached a sermon over 400 years ago that resonates to this day. We all truly rely upon each other. In these modern days where the word isolation and self-quarantine are used, most of us do so out of respect for others and because our actions have effects upon others. We isolate to protect each other. We live on an island that is connected to what is arguably the greatest city in the country. We are not isolated, far from it, and yet here we are today, speaking to each other not in person, but through the magic of the internet. To the matter at hand, my name is Greg, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm here today to ask that you find some magic of your own and restore at least part of our funding cut. I am keenly aware of the pressure that each of you is under and that of the county executive. I have spoken personally with Mr. Bellone twice in the past 2 months. The choices that he and you all must make in the coming weeks and months are difficult at best, tragic at worst. A 25% cut to Thursday's child funding will result in far more than the pittance of savings to the county. $27,500 will not make a difference in the Suffolk budget of $500 million, but it will do irreparable harm to our small agency. It is more than the loss of a staff person, which would itself be tragic in this day. Whom do I choose to lose their livelihood, their home, their possessions? It's far worse because our federal grants are dependent upon the administrative costs paid for other sources, and this we cannot change. At best, this cut will cause losses in staff and services. At worst, the loss will double as we lose the same, if not more, in federal grant. That loss will impact everything we do and the hundreds that we serve each year. Our services are exactly what is needed by Suffolk County today: emergency food and financial assistance, the most up-to-date referral and information, advocating for people living with HIV and AIDS, ensuring treatment adherence, maintaining the health and welfare of those living with AIDS, and continuing our ongoing search for those newly diagnosed and linking them to care. Ending these services to those living with chronic illness in a time of world pandemic would be far more catastrophic. We know well, we remember well the AIDS epidemic and how it took 30 years to get to where we are today on the verge of ending this crisis. But I will leave you with some positive news that I hope will make our case even stronger. The Federal CARES Act from last March included federal aid for those living with HIV and AIDS. I actually had to point it out from the Newsday article to the United Way. However, the good news is the local grants administration team at the United Way of Long Island got us an extra $20,000 in direct funding to families in need. We didn't even ask for it. They asked us to distribute it. To date, we have distributed over $14,000 in direct aid in August and September alone to 47 families across Suffolk County. You guys made this happen. Your support keeps our services strong and free and available to hundreds each year. Please keep our doors open in 2021. I will email a copy of this updated to you guys, and as well as our updated service reports. I can't speak enough to the guys and girls at the Suffolk County Department of Health who have been fantastic to us. They don't get enough credit for the job that they do. I know they're working from home a lot too. They've been nothing but supportive and kind and generous with their time and help to us as well, both technical and moral and everything else. The guys over at the Suffolk County Department of Health need a big shout out as well. we're struggling. We're struggling. This year, we are probably going to do more services to more families than ever in our history, and yet we're concerned about staying open next year. I need your help again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noon, and we appreciate the great work that your organization does. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Noon? Seeing none? Okay, thank you again for coming this afternoon. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'm going to go back. I had two speakers that that we had a little technical issues with. Hopefully, we maybe get them back in. John Michno. Mr. Michno, are you there? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. You're on the phone. Mr. Michno. Okay, how about Andy Quito? Mr. Quito, are you there? You're also in the room. You're on a phone.
Yes, hello?
Okay, there you go. Mr. Quito, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. You start whenever you're ready.
Okay. How much is it? Okay. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Andy Quito, and I'm a member of Passengers United. And I'm here to talk about the proposed cuts for Suffolk Transit. And I want to say that, thank you so much. I want to say that the cut is just absolutely outrageous because it's going to leave hundreds of people stranded and then sorry for that. How is it acceptable you're going to leave a big station like Ronkonkoma with no bus service? And even though the county is spending, the state is spending billions and billions of dollars on transit-oriented development, something like that, around the train station and improvements to access to MacArthur Airport. And yet, you guys are cutting bus service from there. That speaks double standards right there. And there's other routes too, like I think the S54 that goes to Rocky Point. How are people supposed to get to the Pine Barrens over there? That's unacceptable. You guys should be, you guys elected officials down there should be pressuring the state right now to pass something like a gas tax or a billionaire tax to save our mass transit system. And it seems you guys are on bed with a taxi company. And let me tell you about these taxi companies. They are crooks. It happens here in New York City. It happens in Nassau, now in Suffolk. And see, we all want to take cars and pollute more the earth. Look at this. Look at the situation we're in right now. Like, for example, the pandemic. One of the causes is pollution. No wonder why there's so many, the air is so dirty. And you guys want to cut services. You're going to leave hundreds stranded. People are going to lose their jobs. Everybody's going to go on welfare. And it's going to be bad for the environment and the economy of New York State. But, this is what you guys want. And we and my fellow advocates here, we're not gonna rest until we get what we need. And that's to save every single bus here in Suffolk, anywhere here in New York, because mass transit here matters. That's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Quito.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. John Michno. John, I have you in the room. You just need to unmute your phone and speak.
Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
There we go, Mr. Michno.
Finally got it to work. All right, finally. All right. So I am speaking to you today because of the proposed budget cuts to Suffolk County Transit Bus. The cuts proposed will be devastating to thousands of people's lives and the environment. If these cuts were actually to happen, it would mean I would no longer be able to survive on Long Island. Even though I live in Nassau, I often need to travel to Suffolk. I cannot drive as I have been mentally disabled since birth. These cuts will make it impossible for me to travel around on Long Island. I am on a fixed income, so driving and taxis are out of the question. You have to remember, the MTA is also facing a similar crisis and can wind up cutting Long Island Railroad service in half and even shutting down entire lines. I find it unfathomable that Washington won't do the right thing and give us the disaster aid we need. But it is equally unfathomable that such cuts could even be proposed, instead of finding other ways to generate revenue, such as raising taxes, especially on the rich. I am outraged about the cuts that have also been proposed, such as the S54 and the S62 would be gone, and there are no alternatives available. There would also be no bus service at all to the Ronkonkoma Long Island Railroad Station, which is crazy, considering the station is a major hub with redevelopment plans. Meanwhile, other routes that have low ridership and have alternatives, particularly in the Babylon and Islip areas, are not being eliminated. It feels as if the worst of the cuts are being singled out for the middle and north shore of Suffolk, while the south shore escapes relatively unharmed. Perhaps it is because Mr. Bellone is from Babylon and the presiding legislator is from Patchogue. We already get favoritism from the Long Island Railroad toward the South Shore. Now you too? But I get it. These cuts are part of the plan to force out the lower income, seniors, and the disabled from Long Island. More and more, it feels like this is just a place for rich people only. You would rather cut essential services like transit and police than raise their taxes. I'm pretty sure they can afford putting off that new BMW for another year. I can't afford to lose my only way around. New Jersey has done just that, raised gas taxes and a new tax for millionaires to keep essential services running. I guess that's where I'll be moving if these cuts go through. Think about what you're doing. You have the future of our lives in your hands. I've lived on Long Island my entire life, but if these cuts to transit are made, it will be impossible for me to survive here any longer. I remember speaking the last time cuts were proposed for Suffolk County Transit, and all of them went through. I also shared some suggestions for service changes that were ignored. I hope the outcome this time is different. Otherwise, I don't know how you all could sleep at night. Please do the right thing for us. It will depend if I have a future here on Long Island or not. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
I
Michaud.
do have some pictures, some suggestions, but I don't know where I could send them to.
You can email them to the clerk's office. If you, the same location that you found the sign-up sheet for today's meeting, you can find an email address and you can email it to it and it'll be entered into the record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm glad we waited
Sorry
for you
about
to
the
get in.
technical problems, but I was trying. I don't know. I have trouble getting Zoom to work on my computer sometimes. So.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Michaud.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I have no other speakers signed up for this public hearing. I'm being told we don't have to call for a motion to close. It's just to automatically close. So this public hearing is closed for today. For the next public hearing, the Southwest Sewer District Assessment Roll, I do not have any speakers signed up for that public hearing. So seeing that we have no comments, it is also closed for today. Please note that on November 4th of 2020 at 1:15 p.m. we will be holding via Zoom public hearings again on the 2021 operating budget and on the Southwest Sewer District Assessment Roll. Seeing that we have no other items of business for today, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So that does conclude the meeting there. I was really hoping for a little more dialogue. And again, I have one side of my mind. There we go. I was hoping for a little more dialogue, but unfortunately, there really wasn't a whole lot about the buses, which is very concerning. But I'm going to try to speak at the second meeting as well if I can, because this is our livelihood. We have to fight for our livelihoods here because these cuts happen. You know where I'm going to wind up. You know, it's going to be New Jersey. That's you know, it just feels like people like us just aren't wanted here anymore. It's all about these white finance professionals, and if you're not one of them, well, you don't count. That seems to be the way the government works here on Long Island now, and it's not a place for people like us anymore. Yeah. Hopefully these cuts don't happen, but you know, we're fighting an uphill battle, and I think this meeting is just another reminder of that, and just increases the likelihood of where I'm going to wind up. So, thank you for watching, and take care.